Hey, come on, somebody. Big Rich here. Hope you're having a great day. I'm looking forward to today's podcast. Check me out at bigrichbrock.com. All that social media, Face World, Instagram, YouTube, good old TikTok. Big Rich is trying to catch up, getting things out there, getting some new reels, having a lot of fun. But this podcast, man, we're building steam. Thank you for watching, sharing, and getting the word out. So today we're going to talk about something in comedy that I do a lot of, and I think it's a cool thing to discuss for a few minutes. We're going to talk about the difference between bar shows and church shows. What? Big Rich, you do bar shows? Oh, yeah, I do them bar shows, baby. Oh, you do church shows? Yeah, well, what's the difference? I always tell people, because people ask me, a lot of the stuff I'll talk to you guys about are things that I get asked while I'm on the road, like, why are you not a pastor anymore? That's why I did podcasts about that. I get asked, what's the difference between a bar show and a church show? Is your show different? And I always say, yes, I tend to curse more at the church show. And if they don't laugh, then I know I'm in trouble, which, come on, somebody, it's a joke. Don't send me hate mail. I don't need another praying for your soul card. I appreciate you praying for me, but I'm good. Me and Jesus are good, and I'm loving what I'm doing, and I'm bringing hope one laugh at a time over here at the Big Rich Comedy world. But I started thinking about bar shows versus church shows. Now, I do most of my shows in small theaters. I do some comedy clubs. I do wineries, breweries, nonprofit fundraisers. I do corporate events. I do a lot of like residential, like 55 and older residential communities where I'm the entertainment for the quarter. And some of them are 55 and way older. You know what I'm saying? But we have a good time. In fact, I did one recently in Florida. Shout out to those great people. And I'm going back next year. They've already booked it for next year, which was awesome. I pulled into the gate. Man, the gate was nicer than my first apartment. Come on, somebody. I mean, I pull up there and it's brick and it's windows and it's huge. And a woman comes out and she's maybe, I don't know how old she was, but she wasn't 65 because she's still working. Come on, somebody. And she wasn't 45 because she didn't look it. So she's somewhere in that mix, probably closer to retirement age. I pull up and I'm like, hi. She goes, what do you need? I said, I need in. Where are you going? And I didn't know the name. I just had the street address, which was there, and then directions. And I said, I'm going to they have a banquet hall. And I said, the banquet hall. She goes, for what? And she wasn't rude. She was just working. And I said, well, I'm the entertainment. She said, what's your name? I said, it's probably listed as Big Rich. She walks back into the guard shack, comes out, says, yeah, you're on the list. Then she hands me a Post-it note, and it's got her name, Sandra, and her phone number. Come on, somebody. I didn't have the heart to tell her I was a comedian and not an exotic dancer. You know what I'm saying? I thought, my God, this woman's trying to pick me up because I'm Big Rich. And I was like, oh, sweet Jesus of Nazareth. I got to find another way out of here. They only had one gate. I said, when? She goes, I get off at 11 o'clock. I said, I'll be here till 11:30. I mean, I ain't going back out that gate till she's gone. Ain't doing it. So there's all kinds of fun things that happen to Big Rich on the road. We have a big time. But I do, the church shows I do, the first church show I did was a local church. They asked me to come do a comedy show, and it went well. And then they asked me to come back and do a Sunday morning where I don't preach anymore. Though I tend to preach in my shows on occasion. You catch me at Zany's the other night. I got tore up a little bit. I was preaching a little bit in my comedy. And that's my thing. I did Laughing Skull when I first started and do their open mics. I did maybe 3. And as soon as I started talking, I'm from the South and I used to be a preacher because I got that cadence and I've got that, when I get going, it's one of those voices. My boys laugh about it now. But all my boys played high school sports and football, baseball, basketball. And the ones that played basketball, they said, man, my friends would crack up because they would hear your voice above everybody else's in the gym. If it's a bad call, I let it wait like 3 seconds. You got to be kidding me. And the whole play, I never said anything inappropriate that would get me kicked out. I'd say things like, call them like I see them, something funny. And even some refs would chuckle, but my voice would carry through there. And my son's like, man, everybody knows it's Big Rich up there hollering, kind of thing. So church shows, I did that first one and it went well. And then the church I attend asked me to do a show. I did that. So I had 2 under my belt and my promotions. I'm getting better at it, but I have done, as of this recording, I'm almost 5 years into comedy. It'll be 5 years, March of next year. I've already headlined 580 plus shows in 4.5 years. And the way I got those shows was God's providence and referrals, doing a good job where I'm at, and the owner or somebody at the show referring me to somewhere else or them hiring me. All the corporate events I've done, I've been hired from somebody in that corporation that was out at one of my winery shows or a theater show, which has been a blessing. I hope to do more. Those are always fun. So back to church shows. And I love doing them. I did a great church show in Powder Springs last year. Loved it. I did one in Cartersville this year. Loved it with my buddy Cyrus Steele. Shout out Cy. I do several. And are they different? Not really. I mean, I'm pretty much the same everywhere I go, but I tend to bring more inspiration at the church shows where I'll do comedy. And then sometimes, but I've been in bar shows where I tell inspiration stories and I minister to people. It just varies. But church shows, it's funny, or normally the lights are up. So people, when the lights are on, I like it because I'm a former pastor and I'm used to making contact and connecting with people. But when the lights are out at bar shows, people tend to laugh more because they know you can't see them. And, they'll laugh at things maybe, if it's a dirty comic or stuff, it's different style, they'll laugh because nobody can see them. But in a church show, everything's lit up and you're doing your stuff. And I'm always respectful. I'm not going to do anything to offend, but I will tell you my first joke I did in a church show at my church. It was around Christmas and we were doing a live nativity scene. And listen, if you've never been a part of one of them, don't do it. What a headache. You ain't going to find no camels in North Georgia. I mean, what are you going to do? Get a horse and put a hump on it? I mean, I don't know what you're going to do. So you got all that stuff to deal with. And we did a live nativity scene one year at the church. And I don't know about y'all, if you go to church, I tend to sit in the same section. Creature of habit. One time I had to sit on the other side of the sanctuary. I had to go see my chiropractor that Monday. Man, my neck hurt from sitting the wrong way. I go the same row. I sit by the same families. Took me 2 years to figure out they weren't named brother and sister. How you doing, brother? Good to see you, sis. I had to learn names. So I won't say this name because I won't call him out right now. My buddy Jamie. I'm sitting by Jamie at church and they got there late. And he's like, what'd I miss? And I said, we're doing a live nativity scene. He goes, really? I said, yeah. I signed me and you up. Huh? I signed us up. And he's like, what are we doing? I said, well, I'm going to be a wise man and you're going to be a jackass. And I opened up with that night at the church at the show. And I thought, boy, if y'all don't laugh at that, better buckle up because it's going to get, it ain't going to get no rougher. But I thought jackass is in the Bible. Not that I sit around call people that all the time. I did tell somebody one time that God used the jawbone of an ass, so there's help for you. I'm like, with God, all things are possible. But I love doing church shows. But what I don't do as many now because the size of them is bar shows. I'll schedule a bar show about every, I don't know, maybe 3 a year because they keep me sharp. They keep me because most bar shows they're a train wreck, man. Now some are great. If it's put on like Big Rich and Friends comedy or a good comedy, comedian discovery or other, Panama City comedy, shout out Panama City. That's a different vibe. But if you're going into somewhere that's never done comedy, and I go to a lot of places never done comedy. If you're trying to do comedy and you're wanting to get some minutes and you can't find them, go start a show at somewhere you spend money. You ain't got to do 5 minutes, but get you 5 other people from an open mic that you think that'll keep their word. It'd be nice if they're funny, but if they'll show up, that's number one. And if they'll follow instructions, number 2. And if they're funny, that's icing on the cake. Put together a 40-minute show, and there you go. You got your first one. So anyway, I signed up to do this bar show. Now, let me give you a little backdrop for my comedian or my business people. When I decided to do this full time, I was a home inspector, had my own business, just working for myself, one employee. And I decided to do this. I wanted to do comedy, and I went part-time, and I merged my business. I put my business up under another guy's business, and I went to work for him, and I worked 40 hours a week for him. And then I started doing comedy on my off weekends, and then comedy started catching on. And then I approached him about going part-time, and I went 20 hours a week in work and then 80 hours a week in comedy. And most of comedy is booking, marketing, follow-up, show business, 80% business, 20% show. Told that when I started. It's true. So I'm going full-time. I'm at the place where I'm like, okay. Now, when I decided to go full-time, I had 3 corporate events on my calendar, one each month coming up, plus all my other shows. But corporate events tend to pay more. And I'm like, if I'm ever going to do it, now's the time. And I knew it was time. And I stepped out in faith. And I said, I'm going full time. And I left that job. The day after I left that job, I got 2 emails from 2 of the corporate events, both canceling. Those were, one job was $1,700. The other one was $2,200, something like that. And that was income I was counting on to get me through, and they're gone. And I'm like, oh, snap, what am I going to do? And I was like, oh. And I had what little money I had saved, got me through it. But I had to book something. And somebody called me, and they said, hey, we got a show. Would you headline it at a bar in Villa Rica, Georgia? I said, sure. And they said, we can pay you $75. Saturday night, $75, not $1,750 that I just had. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And I believe God honored that because I was willing and I did it. And I get to that show. There's 8 comics. Well, there's 8 people. About 4 of them were comics. Everybody, it's kind of like singers. Everybody says they're a comic or a singer, but you find out pretty quick. And the show started, and it was a free show. So what that means in a bar when it's free, most of the people are there to drink and party. They're not there for the comedy. We had a few that were there for comedy. First person gets up, didn't do super. And in comedy terms, we use the term walk. You can't walk people. When you get up and do your segment, if people walk out, that ain't good. She lost probably 30 people. Then the next person, they did 12 minutes. Then the next person did 15. Then the next person did 15. Then I'm up and I'm supposed to do 40. By the time I went up, there were 21 people left in the bar. And probably 7 of them were for comedy. And I treated that show like it was the most important show I'd ever done in my life. Like I was in front of 5,000 people. And I got up there and I got them by the throat or the shirt collar. And we went on a ride. And I'm selling beer and I'm selling drinks. And I'm like, hey, grab, get what you need. And we had a great set. And afterwards, the owner came up to me and he's like, man, he goes, this thing was dead until you came along. And it wasn't that I was a better comedian. It's the fact I read the room. I knew what the room needed. They needed energized. They needed somebody to grab their attention. And it helped that I was funny. And we had it ended up being a good show. I sold 2 T-shirts, Big Rich T-shirts. So I ended up clearing $100. And I thought, how am I going to make it? About 2 weeks later, I get an email, booked a corporate gig. I'm like, see, now, and I don't know, but in my mind, my little Chickamauga, Hogjaw Road, Chickamauga, Georgia mind, if I honored and did what I was supposed to do, because in my mind, I was like, okay, I do comedy full time. I got nothing booked this weekend. Yes, I'll do that show. And I made that $75. Now, let me tell you about another bar show I did in Canton, Georgia. Shout out Canton, Woodstock area. This was on a Thursday night. This is one of my favorite things that happened in comedy. Dude that put it on, first show I ever did, this guy hired me. Midtown Atlanta, I did a show. I was a feature. They said, can you come do 15 minutes at a dog park? Come on, somebody. And it was an arts and crafts festival at a dog park in Midtown Atlanta. And I get there early and I'll walk around meeting everybody selling stuff in their little arts tents. I got one gal over here selling crystals, not meth, but crystals, I got somebody else selling scented candles and these weren't my crowd per se. But I went around, said hello, talked to everybody, introduced myself. And then when I went up, I watched people stop and come out and listen to what I had to say. And I think that's an important part of business or comedy is you got to connect with people, especially preaching. You better connect with people. And I did my set. And it's the first time I'd ever done first paid gig. And they paid me $25. Wrote me a check, and it was good because I went to the bank immediately. But I remember getting back in the car, and I opened that up, and I looked at the check, and I got real emotional because somebody paid me to do something I love. And I didn't call myself a pro yet because I'd only made $25. It took a while for me to be able to say, yeah, I'm a comedian. I do comedy. I do this for a living. But that day's where it started. Back to the Canton bar. I'm in there on a Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. You know what kind of people go to the bar on Thursday? My kind of people, I'm telling you. And we're in there doing a show, free show. Oh, Jesus of Nazareth, another free one. You get what you pay for, by the way. There's 12 people at the show and 5 people on the lineup. We had a bigger lineup than crowd, and I'm headlining it. And the first guy did okay. Then a lady, she did okay, but they were very mild-mannered. They talked like this. And you're in a bar with pool tables and a whole pool hall connected to the bar. And when I say connected, it was the bar. but it was no doors, just a big open doorway. And there's only 7, 8 people listening to the show. But there's another 15, 16 shooting pool and drinking, carrying on. And I'm sitting at the bar drinking a beer, waiting. And while I'm waiting, the owner of the bar comes up to the promoter beside me and says this, and I quote, "Well, we've done 3 of these, and this sucks. We're not doing any more. Thank you, but I'm done." I'm watching this dude get fired, losing his spot. And I'm like, ooh, that's brutal. But he was right. There was no good energy in that room, in that bar. So I'm sitting there drinking my beer, and this guy comes out of the pool room. And he comes up to get another round of drinks, and he's listening for a minute to the comic. And he's like, man, they suck. I could do better than that. And I looked at him and I said, well, I know I could. He goes, you think so? I said, guaranteed, brother. He goes, really? I said, oh, yeah. In fact, I think I'll just jump up there and take over. He goes, oh, you're crazy. I won't tell you what he said because it was all profanity. But he says, oh, you're, me. And I said, no, man, I am. I said, I'll make you a deal. If I go up there and get on the stage, will y'all come out and support me? Because, man, these people are going to be pissed. He goes, you better believe it, man. I hear your voice. I'm out here. You're crazy. I said, yeah, I am. But I think I'll do it. He had no idea. There was a flyer up right beside him with my picture on it. He had no idea. So I told the guy running the show, I said, hey, when it's my time, don't introduce me. He goes, what? I said, no introduction, just leave the mic. So it was my time. Long silence for like 15 seconds. You know what that means in TV time or show time. I walk up. I get on the platform. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to have a good time tonight. And as soon as I said that, I seen that dude stick his head out from the pool room. And he looked at me like, oh. And he grabbed those 12 people with him. And they brought their beers out and they grabbed seats. And I started my set. And I was about 3 minutes in. And you hear this guy go, oh, hell no, man, you're real. You're real. And he was all fired up because I tricked him. I pulled one on him to get him out there. And you're like, why are you telling me that? Because I didn't lie. I just used what I could to get people out to the show, to get him to give me a minute to allow me to connect with him. When I finished that set, he was the first person to come up to me. He goes, man, you're crazy. That was really good. You do this other places? I said, yeah, I'm such and such next week, one of the shows I do. He goes, we'll be there. And he brought a bunch and came out to it. So I took something, and people say, oh, that was crazy to do that. But it was just something, I didn't plan it. I ain't that bright. I just did what was in me. He says, man, they suck. I could do better. And he looked at me and I said, well, I know I could. And it was on. So bar shows, I used to do one in my hometown. And the second show I ever put on, I did there. And it holds about 40 people. And we had 97 people come out. Back then, the owner told me it was the 3rd largest crowd they'd ever had. They had a guy that is in Nashville, Ben Chapman, shout out Ben, doing music. He's from there. He drew over 100. And then Marlon and Dewey, shout out to my boys there in Walker County. They drew a big night one time. And I'm sure there's more now. But up till then, I was 3rd largest crowd they ever had. First time they ever did comedy. I had people showing up that thought I was doing revival over there. I used to be their pastor. They didn't know. We had all kinds of people. And I did that show. And it's loud. The sound's terrible. There's concrete floors, no acoustics. It's a nightmare to do aesthetically. But when you've got the connection with the people, it works. So bar shows, you can grab that connection. You can church too, but in a bar show, and the reason I like doing them is I have to improvise. I have to, you know, turn it up a notch sometimes. But that's the biggest difference, is simply lights and no lights, or the fact, not that there's drinking, but it's the fact it's usually a rowdier bunch at the bar show. And at church shows, once you get the initial few laughs, then everybody's comfortable. Especially if the pastor's up there laughing, that always helps, because they're like, oh, he's laughing, we can laugh. But I love doing both, and I think they're a great time. And speaking of, if you own a bar or a church or both, no, I'm teasing, wherever you need and you want to book Big Rich, and if I'm available, I'll get out there to you. I do have a lot of Sundays open, so church shows, Sunday nights are a great time for church shows, or even coming in doing a Saturday night comedy show and then doing Sunday morning service and telling my story, finding your purpose again, and how God uh, took me from the pulpit to the punchlines and how I got where I am today. And another thing we do a lot in churches is banquets, like they do volunteer appreciations, or they want to do an outreach for the community. People will come out to a comedy show that'll never come to a church service. And I know how to do those. And that's, I've preached 4,000 sermons. So it'll be a safe place with Big Rich in your church. And I'm not looking to preach. I'm looking to exhort, encourage, and set the table for when they come see you on Sunday or the following Sunday. So let me know. We'll see what we can do. I appreciate all you guys and all you fellow comics that listen in. I encourage you, keep staying the course. I've gotten emails from people that watched previous episodes of how to get into comedy that have started doing open mics. And hey, stay after it. Keep doing it if you enjoy it. If some people do an open mic just to scratch it off a to-do list. They want to, overcome that fear. That's great. Some do it and find out they're passionate about it. That's great. Some do it and do it for years. I'm like, what are they doing? No, I'm like, whatever your place is. Or if you're doing comedy out and about, man, keep up the good work. Keep bringing laughs to people. Stay encouraged. I love doing what I'm doing. I'm glad to be in Cartersville, Georgia, over here at Hammerhead Creations, having a Big Rich time. And give me a shout out on social media. And listen, I'm a spokesman now. Big Rich has hit the big time. I'm a spokesman for IHG, Isaac Hall Group, Affordable Healthcare Insurance. Big Rich, why are you speaking for them? Well, number one, I'm a customer. And being a single, employee, a business owner, I didn't have insurance, and what I could get was outrageous. I got in touch with the people at IHG, and I really thought I couldn't. I thought, man, I ain't gonna be able to afford it. Can I afford it? I don't even know what's missing. My insurance a month is cheaper than a visit to Starbucks a month. Come on, somebody. It's amazing what savings I have. And my insurance is better than what I had when I was married to a nurse. And I have a lot better peace of mind. Come on, somebody. So give them a call, IHG, or go online. Their phone number is 404-391-1936. Tell them Big Rich sent you, and they'll help you out, whether you need Medicaid, Medicare, or affordable health insurance. And you're like, Big Rich, what's the catch? The catch is we want to get you to be able to go see a doctor when you need to. And I was at a place I couldn't go. I couldn't afford it until I met the people at IHG. And it's been great to have them in my life. So you guys have a good week. Thank you for tuning in. Come see me at a show. We got Ringo, Georgia this Friday night, Dallas, Georgia, Vintage Wine Bar this Saturday night. I'll be heading to Navarre, Florida on the 29th. Mariana, I'm a Hog Jow Road kid, so however you say it, Florida. We're going to be there the 28th. All of these are on my Facebook or on my website. Check it out. Tell your friends. We'll see you soon. Have a blessed day.